C5 Z06, you guys, this has been a long time coming. I distinctly remember when I was a kid, 2001, the C5 Z06 came out. It was a dream car of mine, believe it or not. Cheap Corvette was a dream car of mine. But the C5 Z06 is in an interesting position because on one hand, you can have an incredibly clean, low mileage example that's worth a lot of money in the Corvette world. And then on the other hand, you've got guys that are building them into drift cars, ratty old drift cars. So this one, it's modified, it's got a lot of power, but we're gonna find the sweet spot today. Let's go for a drive. The C5, when it first came out, well, the Z06 specifically, it was one of those meet your hero cars. It was a hero car to me. I don't know, I feel like it's just because it was more accessible than a lot of the other cars at the time. You know, Supras and Skylines, of course, all that stuff from pop culture back in the day, Gran Turismo, Fast and Furious was all like in the front of my mind, but it wasn't accessible. It wasn't real, as I've alluded to so many times. I don't love the way this car looks. It hasn't aged the best. I feel like, you guys, there's something to be said about pop-up headlights, absolutely. And if you own a C5, you should not put an aftermarket fixed headlight kit on it, absolutely not. So we'll dive into the specifics in a second, but this should have the perfect amount of power. This has a GM crate motor in it. It's no longer a 5.7 liter, and it's making more power than a stock C6 Z06 with the infamous 7 liter LS7. That's something to be said, so let's check it out. Go down to second gear. It's got a short shifter, really short. Engine loves to rev. Gears not too long. This, first impressions, this would smoke an E92 M3 at any RPM, but specifically like 2,500 RPM. If you look at the dyno graph, Graham's dyno graph, 2,500 RPM, you're already making 375 wheel horsepower, or wheel torque, sorry, that's torque. Let's go through some corners, see how it does, but I mean, first impressions, I'm sitting on the ground, which is an incredible feeling. I already know the car has more than enough power. I mean, it is fast. I mean, already being in fourth gear at 100 kilometers an hour is such a gift. Oh my, yeah. There's the rear end. Some wheel slippage there. You always got to have it in the back of your mind that so much fun, man. It's totally letting me play and have a good time. It makes me feel like a hero, but at the same time, I get the feeling this car could absolutely bite me. Each generation of Corvette certainly has its charm. You know, I've never driven a C4, but what the C4 did was it was pure 80s. Digital dash, all this kind of futuristic tech. It was trying so hard to be digital and futuristic and complex at the time. Of course, the C4 ZR1, world-renowned. The C5 then introduced the cheap Corvette. This was before we had been exposed to Clarkson on Top Gear, the infamous C6 ZR1 moment when he presses into the rear bumper, and that's when the illusion was shattered. That's what Top Gear did so well, in certain scenarios, was bring reality to the forefront in like a cinematic way, in a funny way, and that's where the cheap Corvette stereotype stemmed from, but it wasn't always like that. Sure, 911 snobs had been telling us this for years, but what they were too embarrassed to mention was that C4 ZR1. Perhaps that's because the engine was developed by Lotus, but either way, the 5.7-liter quad-cam aluminum V8 was hiding in plain sight. And sure, your grandma's Volvo has the same 405 horsepower today, but GM felt it necessary to include a valet mode to limit the power by almost half. It was the kind of car we complain about today, right? Big tech, big weight, a complex engine, and an adaptive suspension system that was bound to have issues. Expensive on the front end, expensive on the back end. So after the C4 ZR1, what the C5 had to do was live up to, but more importantly, learn from the C4 ZR1. A 4-cam V8 designed by Lotus, right, in a cheap American car that was not cheap anymore, proved to be a failure. Towards the end of the C4 ZR1's life, they were having trouble selling the car. It was a great car nonetheless, but competition like the Viper, the Supra, the NSX, all these cars were starting to come in. So for the next generation, the C5, they simplified. They made the car lighter and they simplified. That's funny, where did I hear that? I believe Colin Chapman, that was his thing. Was it not? Simplify, then add lightness. If there was one thing that GM took away from that partnership with Lotus, when they owned Lotus back in the day, you can call it the C5 and C6 Z06s. They learned something. GM leaned into the single cam setup until the C8, slowly and cautiously adding both comfort and power until one day, this flimsy C5 interior screamed opportunity instead of embarrassment.
My name's Graham. This is my 2003 Corvette Z06. You know what? I had a chance to drive one of these. One of my best friends owns one, and I fell in love with it. I like the C6Z a lot, but it's a little bit long in the tooth. If you've had a chance to drive one, the gear is really long. I find this one easier to drive quick. I think most people who've driven both will agree. I'm an amateur driver, I'm not a professional, but I like my track days and I like going quickly. It's a little bit more analog. I like driving without any electronic aids. It's just as quick and about half the cost to maintain. So for someone like me who wants to do as many track days as possible, and I'm not a millionaire, this is kind of an obvious choice.
Let's start with the engine, I guess. You want to pop the hood?
Sure. This is a DR525 GM crate motor. So it's a Gen 4 LS. It's more or less, it's basically an LS3 with a cam. And then because this particular motor was for a GM like spec racing series, there's rumors that it had forged internals. I don't know if it's true. I know guys who've played around with them and said they're a little bit different, but to all intents and purposes, it's an LS3 with a cam and some bolt-ons, but they're bigger. They're 6.2 compared to the 5.7. Stock heads. Actually, this one has Lingenfelter valve springs, just so it can handle a bit higher RPM. And the springs also deal with the cam. It's got a GM ASA cam, which is their biggest one. It's not the best cam by any means, but it makes good power. And I don't want to open the motor up at this point. I've done it with enough cars, and it's just cost me money. It's got AMT motor mounts. It's got Lingenfelter electronics, Veraram intake, American Racing headers, an X-pipe, Corsa Sport mufflers. Racing Greed did the tune. It's got a DeWitt rad, a Lingenfelter oil cooler, a Mazier electric billet water pump. And then the driveline, it's got a McLeod twin disc clutch. It's got a Ram flywheel. It's got a tilt and adjustable release bearing. It's got a tilt and clutch master, pedals adjustable. For brakes, it's got DBA 4000 rotors, Hawk pads, Doug Rippey stainless lines, Doug Rippey stainless pistons. For suspension, it's got QA1 mod coilovers. We got rid of the leaf springs. Bushings are done. It's got aluminum steering rack bushings, Hotchkiss sway bars, and Toyo Proxy R888R tires.
So you guys, clearly, just like Graham's C6 Z06, the suspension, because he has intentions to drive it on the track, has been completely overhauled. This is what comes along with the cheap Corvette stereotype that, hey, Corvettes had leaf springs up until the C8, and you think of leaf springs from like a truck. It's a completely different setup, but nonetheless, Graham, you've got rid of the leaf springs.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell a difference with the coilovers. The leaf springs are fine, I think, for most of the time. I don't know, I could drive it quick with the leaf springs and shocks, but when I put the coilovers on with the tunability, it's next level. I fully recommend it. The stock rear end's 342s, and we've got 373s in this, so it's a lot shorter in the tooth than the C6E. I like it. It feels like you're always in a good power range. You get to roll the gears a lot too, which is a lot more fun. Jim Kane from Jim Kane Performance built all this stuff. It just needed to get finished by Racing Grade, like beyond expectations. By all means, the tune's awesome. They did a great job.
Kind of my last question here. Guy like Angus has a C5 Z06. When I saw him drifting it, I was like, why didn't you just get a base C5, right? What are your thoughts on someone turning it into just a beater, kind of?
I know Angus. Hey, Angus. You know what? Like, honestly, at the end of the day, you hear this all the time with like Porsche enthusiasts and stuff. You know, you outlaw 911, people want to burn your house down and stuff. As much as I hate to say it, it's his car. He can do anything he wants with it. So for me, you buy a Z06, you want to turn it into a drift car. I mean, maybe just don't go for a super low mileage original one. I don't think his was, but you know, he can do whatever he wants, and he can drift too. He's a good driver, so yeah, he's got a good car for it.
Wow. Graham, this thing is a savage. You are going to have so much fun on track. I mean, the steering is so good. It's heavy, but the rack is real quick. Dare I say, it feels like it has more feel in the steering than the C6 did, than Graham's C6. There is so much of the character of the C6 that is the same here. It is very much like you can drive it with a lot more precision than a GT500, no question. The steering's better, the seating position's better. It took a lot more to kick out the rear end on that C6, but the C8Z is an incredible car. If you haven't watched my review on that, you should go check it out. But the C5s and C6s are more enjoyable at lower speeds, for sure. I'm speechless. The engine and the gearing and the shifter feel are my favorite things about this car. I think if this had, like, it would be so easy to ruin this car with long gears. This is not a car I would want to drive across the country. It is, the C5 Z06 had a bunch of the sound deadening taken out, so it is stiff, but it is, yeah, keeping up with the bumps in the road. Yeah, the big cam's not bad. And power carries all the way to redline. Don't feel like short shifting. 3,000 RPM. It's an easy car to get in and drive. It like welcomes you in to begin driving it, and then when you begin driving it hard, it's like, no, we still have a lot to learn. What a car, man. Like it? Thank you, bro.
Sick. Nice.
You guys, I think Graham said it best. I think if you're going to take like a low mileage C5 Z06, that might not be the best option, because, you know, this car, what it does is it's just brought out all the stuff that was good from the factory, but to that next level, right? It already had shorter gears. They're shorter now, and you can do that. It's got a little bit more power to bump it up to kind of a modern standard. And then it's got the updated suspension and everything. So I could see this being a great drift car in the future just for its balanced dynamics. But where else does that come through? It comes through on the track when you're looking for grip at the same time. So yeah, thanks Graham for bringing the car out. See you guys next time.